the most accurate team in South Florida. NBC6 First Alert Weather.
And good evening. I'm meteorologist Steve MacLaughlin. It is 8 p.m. We are live here from the NBC6 First Alert Weather Center. We are continuing to track Hurricane Melissa, still a major hurricane. We'll be back here at 9 and 10 o'clock with updates, and then our 11 o'clock news with meteorologist Ryan Phillips. Ryan will also be here throughout the night to keep an eye on this storm in case anything significant happens or we get a landfall tomorrow morning. Adam and Chelsea will take over. John Morales will also be joining them tomorrow morning, and then Larissa and I will be back tomorrow afternoon. So we're going to cover this storm for the next 24, 36 hours over Jamaica. As it gets into Cuba, obviously, we will shift our focus to Cuba and then the Bahamas. So we're down to Category 3. The winds are at 125, but remember what gives a hurricane life. It is warm water, and there is plenty of warm water between Jamaica and Cuba, but there's not a lot of time. So we don't have enough time for this to get back up to Category 5, but we expect it will be back up to Category 4. We are going to be talking about the historic nature of this storm. So there's a couple of ways that we measure how strong a storm gets. The first is wind speed. The second is pressure. So this is actually a list of the strongest storms on record based on pressure. Wilma is the record center. 2005, we had 882 millibars, but Wilma did not make landfall with 882 millibars. It is for that reason that Melissa, with a landfall of 892, and the Labor Day hurricane back in 1935 with 892, these are now the strongest landfalls based on pressure. We can also include Dorian if we want to have a discussion on strongest storms based on wind speed at landfall, 185. That's the Labor Day hurricane, Melissa, and Dorian. So look, for the rest of our time here talking about hurricanes in the coming years, we will always be talking about Melissa, the Labor Day hurricane, and Dorian as wind speed-wise the worst hurricanes to make landfall. What to expect in the coming days. Slowly improving conditions overnight for Jamaica. Heavy rainfall, wind, and surge across Cuba on Wednesday. And this will be a significant wind event later in the Bahamas. All of that then heads up toward Bermuda. And as we're talking about this storm, we can add this to the list of storms that are now the strongest or the record setter for some given location. I mean, think back to 2017. We had Harvey, the wettest storm ever for the United States, and for those folks living in southeastern Texas, their worst storm ever. Folks in Puerto Rico will refer to Maria as the worst storm they've ever seen. That was the same year as Irma, by the way. We could look at Michael in 2018, worst storm for the Panhandle. Ian, worst storm for places like Naples and Fort Myers. Last year, Helene, the worst storm surge-wise for Tampa Bay. Dorian, the worst storm to ever hit the Bahamas. The list goes on and on. We can now say this is the worst storm to ever hit Jamaica. And even though the worst is now exiting, they are not done. They're going to have a rough night with wind and rain, and now the storm surge coming from the opposite direction. So you can see the eye is probably right about there. And look, on the back side, we've got that counterclockwise wind. We're going to have some of these outer spiral bands continuing to bring rain. But what's interesting about Montego Bay, so Montego Bay had a very rough day, but it could have been so much worse. What happened is the storm made landfall, and as it was slicing across Jamaica, the eye was contracting because it was interacting with the land. If the eye stayed the same size it was when it made landfall, Montego Bay would have had the eye wall and those Category 4 or 5 winds. Instead, Montego Bay had a rough day, but not the bullseye, and now the bullseye is up over here. But for the rest of the night, what Montego Bay will have to deal with, storm surge, because that northerly wind is now going to push all the water into the shoreline. So they're not done. The other thing I wanted to show you, as this storm is approaching Cuba, we always talk about the right active dirty side of the storm. That's over here. Because of the counterclockwise rotation, we've got dry air pull down over here. We've got tropical moisture on this side. That's why we still have tropical storm warnings for Haiti and for the Turks and Caicos. They're on the periphery. Places like Haiti, parts of Jamaica, Parts of Cuba, when all's said and done, there are folks that are going to have over 3 feet of rain. We think the general estimate for Cuba is about 1 to 2 feet, probably closer to 6 inches to a foot for the Bahamas. But the numbers that are coming out of Haiti and the Dominican Republic, remember, several days of rain, and they're nowhere near the bullseye, but they're on that right active dirty side. Here are the latest advisories. We continue with a hurricane warning for all of Jamaica. Now, conditions will start to improve overnight, but there's still rain. There's still wind, there's still storm surge, but the worst is over. They're going to get into cleanup mode over the next 24 hours. We have a hurricane warning for eastern Cuba. This is next. Then it's the central and southeastern Bahamas. Notice this red color right here. This is your bullseye. Everything over here on the right active dirty side, Turks and Caicos down to Haiti. We could have tropical storm conditions just kind of grazing them, but for these areas, I think it's more about the rain, even if they're not in the center of those hurricane winds. Big picture, let me begin by going back in time, and this line right here is what we call our historical line. It shows where the storm has been, and this is what caused all the problems. Think back to about 5-6 days ago, we had 2 computer models. Our GFS computer model showed that whatever this was going to go up toward Haiti and the Dominican Republic. Our European model showed it was going to come this way and then turn up toward Jamaica. And we didn't know which model was going to end up being correct because the storm was just sitting here as a lower end tropical storm for a couple of days. Remember, the winds were kind of stuck at 45, 50 miles per hour. As soon as it made this move, we knew with 100% certainty that our European model was the right model, that it was going to come like this and turn, and it was just a matter of exactly where that turn happened. But this is our European model, and this is also the track that the National Hurricane Center has nailed beautifully for the last couple of days. We knew this was what was going to happen, and we still have, unfortunately, more devastation on the way, first for Cuba and then the Bahamas. So again, we're down to Category 3. This could be back up to Category 4 by landfall. We're estimating about 2 a.m. give or take, winds at 140. It is slicing across Cuba, and when it emerges, it could still be a Category 3 for the Bahamas. Turks and Caicos, Haiti, far edge, some tropical storm conditions, a ton of rain, but this is going to be your bullseye. This is our wind forecast. The yellow circle, those are tropical storm winds. The orange circle, damaging winds 57 plus. The red, those are the bullseye hurricane winds. So watch as the storm makes landfall right there. There's Santiago de Cuba and Guantanamo. So just to the west of that. And remember, over here, we've got the storm surge. The water is getting pushed up. The rain is going to be torrential. And then right here, this is where we get that buzzsaw. Those Category 3 or 4 winds just slicing right across the island. Emerging at about 8 a.m., so 8 a.m. tomorrow morning is when the storm is leaving Cuba. And then mid to late afternoon, it's in the Bahamas. And you can see those tropical storm winds grazing the Turks and Caicos, but it's all about the Bahamas. And then it goes all the way up to Bermuda, where at the very least, tropical storm conditions are expected. That it's just a matter of how close the center of the storm gets. I want to show you a different perspective. This is our future tracker, and this gives you an idea of also the rain and the motion. So that's the center of the storm. That's 9 p.m. Give or take 2 a.m., that's going to be your landfall. You can see all the rain pounding Haiti up to the Turks and Caicos, even though the storm is over here. Tomorrow morning, it emerges, and then it's right over the Bahamas tomorrow afternoon. And look at all of that rain. Nothing near South Florida. I'll explain why we have no concerns here in just 1 second. But one spot that does have a concern, Bermuda. Now, look, this is just one model. If this model is correct, then Bermuda, maybe not in the clear, but they won't get direct impacts, probably just some outer winds. But if this shifts just a little bit, this is going to be yet another chance for Bermuda to have tropical storm and hurricane conditions. All right, so I want to talk about how all of this connects to our weather and why we feel great about our forecast over the next couple of days. Cold front number 1 coming through literally tonight. Tomorrow, slightly cooler, but it's still muggy. It's cold front number 2 on Thursday morning that brings refreshing weather for Thursday and Friday. It's going to be beautiful for trick-or-treaters. Also, side note, don't forget to fall back Saturday night. 2 a.m. becomes 1 a.m. So tonight, cold front number 1 brings some scattered showers the rest of the evening and overnight, 74, and it's muggy out there. And even tomorrow, we've lost about 5 degrees from today, but it's still muggy, so it's going to feel like the 90s. It will be mostly sunny, a very nice day. Outside right now, we're in the lower 80s, but you can tell it's humid. Feels like 86 Miami, 84 Fort Lauderdale, and 88 in Key West. So this is cold front number 1, comes through tonight. This is cold front number 2. It will come through very early on Thursday morning. This is really going to open the door for that stunning weather. And how is this preventing the hurricane from coming anywhere near us? We call this a trough. It's basically the leading edge of that first cold front. The red is the dry air. The green, that's the storm. And you can see how this is pushing everything this way. And that's why nothing is coming toward us. Not a drop of rain from this hurricane. We'll get a couple of spotty showers with the cold fronts. That's just about it. But all this will head up toward Bermuda and not in toward us. So a close look for the rest of the evening. We're going to keep these scattered showers. This is pretty much what it's going to look like. We're mainly dry right now. Fort Lauderdale down to Homestead. The action is down toward the Keys, but no matter where you're watching from, that front still has to come through. So we still have a chance for some scattered showers. Let's talk humidity. Today's humidity was really soupy. And tomorrow, even behind the cold front, notice that dark green color has not gone away. But as we get into Thursday and Friday, here comes that refreshing weather. It looks fantastic. Let's talk about low temperatures from this morning. Talking about a real cold front, look at Pensacola, Tallahassee, Jacksonville, 59 degrees with very low humidity. We were stuck in the upper 70s to around 80 degrees. Right now, we still feel like 86 to 88. Orlando feels like 70, 61 Tallahassee, 59 in Jacksonville. Jacksonville, in fact, a 13-degree temperature drop over the last 24 hours. But it's all for us about the dew point. Dew points in the 70s. Summertime humidity. We are there. Certainly feeling it in Key West at 77. Orlando 64. This is a nice change. The refreshing air, you need to see numbers in the 50s. We have it up here, and we'll get a little taste of that over the next maybe 36 hours, but it's more like 72 hours before that dry air just blasts across the entire area. So let's talk about our forecast. So tomorrow morning we wake up to 74, end up at 87. It's going to be humid, so it's going to feel like the 90s. We're leaving our rain chances at 10%, a passing shower with that first cold front through the area. Slightly cooler, but really not much less humid. Thursday, though, this is cold front number 2. Again, 10% rain chance. Maybe there's a passing shower. 69 to 81, huge difference. And then Halloween, perfect. 62 to 78, not a drop of rain, so zero chance of rain, refreshing humidity. It's going to be a beautiful weekend. 63 to 80 on Saturday, zero chance of rain. 68 to 83 on Sunday, 10% chance of rain. We will add more showers on Monday and Tuesday. We'll see you right back here at 9 p.m. with another update. Ryan Phillips will be with you at 11 and through the night for When Melissa Makes Landfall.